In the name of Allah, the most beneficent and the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum. How are you, dear students? I welcome you in Pakistan International School Types virtual learning system for the session 2020. And as you know, this is biology class for subject uh, biology class for the grade second year, and this is lecture number 21. Dear students, we are on chapter number 17, in which we are discussing nervous coordination. Today's topic is another topic from that chapter, nervous coordination, that is basic organization of human nervous system. And in basic organization, we will see different organizations and nervous systems. So today we will see central nervous system, that is brain and spinal cord. So let's get started, dear students. Yes, if you see, dear students, here on your book, Basic Organization of Human Nervous System, then you can see that nervous system consists of two main nervous systems, that is central nervous system and that is peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system is which is composed of two main two main parts, that is brain and spinal cord, and these are brain and spinal cord, and these are present in the center of the body, and that make the medial line of the body. So brain, as we know, that receives, process sensory information and initiates some responses. It can store and memories as well, and we are having lots of emotions and thoughts which are holistically just depends on the brain. So spinal cord is also very, very important part of the central nervous system, in which it conducts signals, and from the brain controls the reflex activity. So both of them work together. And next, other system, peripheral nervous system, that works in coordination with central nervous system, that is also called PNS, and it is composed of motor neurons and sensory neurons. So motor neurons, which carry like all the information which is interpreted in the brain. So it carries from CNS or spinal cord, from the brain and spinal cord to the muscles and glands, and they actually conduct responses from the brain to the effectors. And sensory neurons, they conduct our impulses from our sense organs to the central nervous system. So motor neurons are composed of two main nervous systems also. Those are somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. Motor neurons, which carry the messages to the effectors, like our body organs or as glands as well. So if they are voluntary in actions, so they are they like that is under control of somatic nervous system, and it is automatic, autonomic, or we can say involuntary responses, they are under control of autonomic nervous system. For example, our heartbeat, our respiration, our breathing, our digestion, that is involuntary, and that is under autonomic nervous system. And like if our skeletal muscles are moving, so that is under somatic nervous system. So autonomic nervous system, So autonomic nervous system, that is subdivided into sympathetic nerve division or sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system, we know that acts for fight or flight, like in the stress condition, and in antagonistically parasympathetic gives us a rest or digest reactions, like they make our body calm and at rest. So let's talk about all of them one by one in detail. So first of all, we will see central nervous system of a human beings. In central nervous system, we know that it is composed of two main organs, that is brain and spinal cord, and we know that both are hollow structures, means it is composed of some cavities inside it and some fluid also. So if we talk about brain and spinal cord, so that is like you can see here, this nervous system is subdivided into two categories: peripheral nervous system, which is at the side, which carries some neurons, sensory and motor neurons, and the central nervous system, which is brain and spinal cord. Okay, so let's talk about brain and spinal cord. That brain and spinal cord are covered by, so we can see in this diagram that this is brain and spinal cord, which is going down up to the back. And if we see this, that brain is covered with a skull, the bony structure. Under the skull, if we see, there are three layers of protective, we can see the protective tissues. Those are called meninges. And these meninges are present along on the brain as well as along the spinal cord. So these meninges cover the brain and spinal cord as well. So they give them protection for the brain from any shock. So you can see here, this is the skull bone, and the first one, this dark color, that is dura mater, and dura means tough and hard. That is derived from Latin word. It means hard, and mater means mother. Like it is the protective covering. That's why it acts like mother, and dura means tough. The next one you can see here, arachnoid matter. It means that it arachnoid, that is it means spider, and it's like spider's web-like structure is present, that is called arachnoid matter, and that layer is having these arachnoid, these extensions of which go to the pia mater, the third layer of these meninges. These are called cranial meninges, and they give actually the strength as well as protection from the shocks. And inside this structure, cerebrospinal fluid is there, and which also gives fluidity as well as the protection against the shocks. The third layer, very thin, that is connected with the cerebrum. This is cerebrum, and that is called pia mater, and in that blood vessels are also present. The same structure is present in the spinal cord. You can see this is dura mater. The second one is arachnoid, and it is having the extension, and this is the fluid as well. CFS, cerebro spinal fluid, CSF, and then we are having pia mater. It means that tender. Pia means tender. So the inside layer is very tender. The outer one is toughest layer of this brain meninges. You can see the like zoomed structure of that. That is the skin, which is outside of the cranium. Cranium means skull. That is the upper layer of the cranium, like we have studied this in bone structure. Then we are having in the first meninges, that is dura mater, then arachnoid mater, and then this is pia mater. So in arachnoid and pia mater, there is CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, is present in the brain. Okay, let's talk about the internal structure of the brain. Brain is composed of mainly the part that is called a cerebrum, that is present in the forebrain. If you see a forebrain, brain is composed of three different parts: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. So let's talk about forebrain. Forebrain consists of cerebrum, a thalamus, and limbic system. And in forebrain, the major and the largest part of the human brain is cerebrum. We can say that you can see here cerebrum, there are lots of folds present in the cerebrum, and these folds or convolutions, they form a ridges or gyri. So we call them gyri, and singular is gyrus. And these gyri or gyri are separated with certain grooves from here. If the grooves are not deep, they are shallow, so they are called a sulcus, and if they are very deep, so they are called fissures. So two hemisphere, like a cerebrum is we know divided into two cerebral hemispheres, means half of that. So they are having divided into two hemispheres by longitudinal fissures. Like the fissures, the division is too deep inside it. So these two cerebral hemispheres are connected with one another by callosum. Corpus callosum we can see in the diagram. Next coming diagram, we can see here in this text architecture of human brain, we can see here this is the plexus of axons, like lots of axons are present, which connect those two hemispheres of the brain, which are having the connections among the emotions, among the feelings, and thinking thoughts as well. Okay, so if we talk about a cerebrum or cerebral hemispheres, so we can see there are lobes, four lobes, in which they are divided. That is according to the functions. There is frontal lobe, which just controls the motor like activities. Problem solving area is there, and speech production is done by this process. Like all the information about that interpret in this part. Then we are having parietal lobe, in which there is perception of touch and body orientation. So we can see here that is occipital lobe, in which a perception of sight information is there. Visual reception of all the information is done in the occipital lobe. If we see the fourth one, that is temporal lobe, that is this pink one, auditory perception, all is done here. We can hear and all the information perceived here in our temporal lobe. Language comprehension as well as memory and information retrieval is done. Then we can see here cerebellum and as a brain stem, or we will just see their functions and structures later on. Okay, so these four lobes just work in coordination, and every lobe is having three areas, in which sensory area, association area, and motor area. In means sensory neurons come in that area, and there in association area mixed neurons are there which interpret and analyze all the information, and then motor area is that which controls all the body responses. So let's talk about the next part of the brain, of forebrain, that is thalamus. And thalamus is actually below the cerebrum, and it receives all sensory impulses, just except a sense of a smell. And that it is like connection, it is connection between the cortex and as well as limbic system. So limbic system, you can see here in this diagram, limbic system is composed of hypothalamus, amygdala, and hippocampus. These are the three main parts, but certain other parts are also there. You can see olfactory lobe as well. So these are some parts: hypothalamus, which is beyond the thalamus, and here you can see the thalamus, and here is hypothalamus is present. That's why it is hypo, means under the hypothalamus, under the thalamus. So, and this hypothalamus is having very, let's talk about that important functions of hypothalamus. It maintains the homeostasis of our body, like we have seen in the first two chapters about the homeostasis. So you can understand properly that how the hypothalamus is important. So it contains like our hunger, sleep, our body temperature, water regulation, blood pressure, menstrual cycle, and how we speak, how we sleep and awake. All these functions are controlled by hypothalamus. So that is the main organ in the brain, which controls all the body functions, as well as it controls the regulation of pituitary gland, because it is connected with the hypothalamus. And pituitary gland, we know it is a master gland, and it produces lots of hormones which regulate the body functions. So hypothalamus is the connection between endocrine system, because it produces hormones, and nervous system as well. So let's talk about amygdala. That is, if you see here in this diagram of limbic system, so you can see here that is hypothalamus. That portion is called thalamus, and that is hypothalamus. And then we are having amygdala. Amygdala is almond-shaped structure which is connected with the hippocampus. And this is a small almond-shaped structure, but it is very important because it controls the feelings and emotions of love, anger, and fear, and rage, and sexual arousal. All the functions are controlled or relating with mood by amygdala. Let's talk about the third part of that limbic system, that is hippocampus. Hippocampus is two horns that curve back from amygdala, and amygdala is connected with this one. So these are two on both of the sides. So that is very important. That converts the things which are in short-term memory. It is converted into long-term memory, which we can learn for a longer period of time. There is another very important thing here. Under the cortex region, there are four, we can say we are having, yes, we are having four ventricles, four empty spaces here in the brain. So you can see here in this diagram. Like if we just see this diagram of the brain, so you can see these cavities are called ventricles. Okay, so you can see here is the third ventricle. This is the empty space. Okay, and these are lateral ventricles. This is 1 and 2 lateral ventricles. They are present on both of the sides of the cortex region. So these are also here, the empty space is there. Then 1 and 2 are there. So number third is third ventricle is present between the limbic system and thalamus. You can say this is all the limbic system, and the thalamus is present here. You can see this one. Okay, and the next one is a fourth cavity that is present uh, here, that is between the pons and cerebellum. Cerebellum and pons, there is also the cavity that is called ventricle. So let's talk about midbrain. Midbrain is actually reduced in humans, but in some animals that is uh, like very much prominent. So it is actually the relay station. Relay station means it is the connection between the cerebrum and spinal cord. You can see here cerebrum and spinal cord. This one. The spinal cord starts from here under the medulla oblongata. So that is the connection between cerebrum and spinal cord as well as a cerebellum. So this is midbrain, and it contains a reticular formation. There are lots of neurons, and their cell bodies and nuclei are present over there. And this is the actually a connecting part which connects a hindbrain. This is hindbrain with the forebrain. So let's talk about cerebellum actually. So cerebellum, it controls the equilibrium in the body and body positions and coordinations of actions individual muscles to produce complex activities, such as like it controls walking, running, movement, and riding bicycle. Like it very complex type of functions it um, carries on. And then we will see pons here. Actually, pons is the bridge between cerebellum, medulla, and our that we can say that is forebrain, that is called cerebrum. So in these three pons is the connection between them, and it controls the rate and pattern of involuntary actions, for example, heartbeat and breathing. Let's come to medulla oblongata. And that medulla oblongata is actually controls lots of autonomic or automatic body functions, that is heartbeat, blood pressure, respiration, swallowing, digestion, etc. So the hindbrain and midbrain, that they controls, like cerebrum controls voluntary actions, but very complicated and complex one, like jumping, running, riding bicycle exercises, as well as this pons and medulla oblongata that controls what are functions which are involuntary in actions. So, dear students, we have just completed brain. Now we will see the second part of central nervous system, that is spinal cord. Spinal cord is actually very, very important structure that is having the connection between body and the brain, because it starts from the brain uh, our back last part of the body, like it is in the lumbar region. Okay, so you can see here spinal cord uh, you can see here in this diagram that actually spinal cord arise from medulla oblongata to downward. It is a connection up to the last of our body, and this is actually, here is a hole in the skull through which it is coming out and makes the connection and fit into the skull, uh, and that is called foramen magnum. Foramen magnum is the hole present under the skull, which is actually the opening of the spinal cord, which is connected it with the medulla oblongata. Okay, so if we talk about this spinal cord, it is also composed of three meninges, which we have talked about, and very, very important that it is a part of a CN, that is central nervous system, CNS, and it is also composed of the fluid. Okay, it is having the central cavity, central canal that is filled with the fluid, CSF, and you can see this butterfly like structure that is composed of gray matter. Outside is white matter, but in the brain, outside in the cortex region, there is gray matter, and inside it is composed of white matter. Actually, this gray matter is composed of lots of what we can say non-myelinated part of the fibers, and white matter is composed of myelinated white fibers, because that is fatty and white in structure. That's why it seems to be whitish in structure. So you can see this gray matter is H-shaped and or butterfly shaped. So it is having two roots, dorsal root and ventral root. Dorsal root is composed of spinal nerves. These are composed of spinal nerves, which moves towards the spinal cord, and here on the ventral root there are the nerves which compose of the spinal nerves, which move out of that gray region or that spinal cord. And this dorsal root is having a ganglion, a root like nerves ganglion, where the lots of cell bodies are present, as well as mm, this is having in between, that is division. That division is actually, that is where there is a shorter division or shorter gap, that is called dorsal uh, sulcus, and which is the longer one, that is called ventral, that is called a ventral fissure, uh, which makes or just forms its butterfly shape. And look, if you see this one, brain and spinal cord, so you can see in butterfly shape, that's gray matter inside and white matter outside in the spinal cord. But in brain, gray matter is outside, you can see here, and white matter is inside, because it's myelinated sheath carried, or axons, they are present in the center, but here in spinal cord they are present out of the center, like at the sides. Dear students, I hope you understood this lecture completely. Tomorrow, inshallah, we will continue the next topic, that is cranial and spinal nerves in human beings. Inshallah. Till then, Allah Hafiz. Wish you all the best.